Hello, welcome to Level 20 Sportsline. Sure, we're going to have a great show for you tonight. A lot of stuff going on over the past few days and over the past couple of weeks. It's been a while since we've been here. We're glad to be back. We're glad at least people could come down and join us. Sorry I'm a little bit scruffy looking, but I'm in transition right now. We're going to start out, as we usually do, with our What's on Your Mind. Al, what's on your mind?
What's on my mind today is NHL hockey. We've talked about it so much. Look at the deadline passed. There's no hockey again. To me, it sounds like an NBA holdout. Both sides are polarized. One's at 57, 54%. The other's 45%. They don't know how to split up this revenue. They had a great bit of momentum going with all the hockey and the playoffs, all the excitement out there. And look what they're doing. They can't come together and compromise. I believe they should get this compromised and settled within the next month. Will they do it? I doubt it. And that's what's on my mind, Mike.
Thanks, Al. Smoking Jim, what's on your mind?
Hey, thanks, Mandy. Hey, I'd like to, first of all, thank Mike Migliore, Al Levine, Aaron Ward, Devin Shea, because without those people, we would be unable to do this show here. Also like to thank Devin Shea, who is a military hero, and he's one of the main reasons that 9/11 will never happen in this country again. So I want to give a big round of applause to all those who protect and serve for us. Also, I would quickly like to give my Monday night football pick. 2 years ago, I went 16-1 on Monday Night Football picking against the spread. So far this season, I'm 4-0 on Monday night games and Sunday night games. Last Wednesday night, the Monday night game was played. I had Baltimore Ravens over Cincinnati. I had San Diego over Oakland. Of course, on the Sunday night game, everybody knows I had Denver beating the Pittsburgh Steelers. And last night I had San Francisco, who's my Super Bowl pick, beating the Detroit Lions. And tonight I have the Atlanta Falcons beating the Denver Broncos. Atlanta Falcons beating the Denver Broncos. And finally, MVP! I tell you what, Pedro Alvarez is my MVP. He made not last night. He went 2 home runs, 5 RBIs. I tell you right now, he may not be the most valuable player, he may not be the most valuable person, but he's the most valuable Pedro. And I tell you what, the Pittsburgh Pirates, if they get to 82 wins, the city of Pittsburgh ought to throw a parade. In case you haven't noticed, I'm a black man. And we love the bands. Bring in the Grambling Marching Band, Southern Band, bring the Gap Band back, American Bandstand. I tell you what, Chip, why do we got to wait for St. Patrick's Day to have a parade? We haven't had one since Hines Ward won Dancing with the Stars. I'm going to talk to my good friend, the mayor, Luke Ravenstall, about throwing the parade for the Pirates. Only got 3 words. Hip, hip, parade! Hip, hip, parade! Hip, hip, throw a pirate parade.
Awesome, Jim. Awesome. That says it all.
Well, that's about enough for this show. Go ahead and turn the cameras off. What else can we do? Well, I guess we have some time to waste. Chip,
yeah.
What's on your mind?
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. What's on my mind is we've gone through week 2 of the NFL season, and I had expressed a big concern before the season started about the qualifications of the referees that were going to be refereeing the games. And the caliber of play that we saw and what was going to happen as far as penalties. And so far, after 2 weeks, I've kind of rethunk my position about this. I say keep the replacements. The officiating this past weekend was atrocious at best. But it's no worse than it is when the regular referees are there. So you know what? I mean, the bad calls go both ways. Both teams have to deal with them. And that kind of levels the playing field. So I think that makes a better sense. I can't understand why, for the life of me, that the NFL referees are striking in the first place and got locked out. Here are guys that are asked to work 5 months out of the year. Okay, they work 20 weekends out of 52 a year, and they get paid $175,000 a year to do it. But let me tell you something. Where can I sign up for one of them jobs and I will not utter a complaint? I mean, these guys are fools for going on strike, and the NFL is proving right now they don't need them anyhow. So bust the union, keep the replacements, and let's enjoy football. That's what's on my mind.
Thanks, Chip. Well, I've got to go somewhere between Al and Chip, which is Jim's spot, I guess, but I got to get in there because I got to talk a little bit about the NHL and the union. Yeah, the NHL locked out the players. Didn't want to see that happen. You know, would hate to lose another hockey season. Hate to see that the NHL is going to lose a lot of the fans that they won coming back from the last lockout with an even playing field so that any team could compete. I don't think that the fans that they won that time are going to live through this lockout. I think they're going to lose a lot of people. But since they did lock the players out, I think they should take advantage of it. Personally, I would not lock out the players. I would not shut down the season. I would hire replacement players. I would give every player that's currently signed the option to come back to the team that they're signed with. But anybody that didn't, I would replace with replacement players. I would take the ice and I would play the entire season, because if you do that, players like Zach Parise and Sidney Crosby and these people that are making $10 million and $8 million a year will all cross the picket line. They will come back and they will play, because they can go to Metalursk or they can go to Magnitogorsk or they could go play in Italy or wherever. They're not going to make that kind of money anywhere. And they will come back. This is your chance to break the union. You need to break it. You need to tell them we're not having a union anymore. You want to come play with us? This is the way the rules are. This is the pay level. This is the salary cap. And this is how free agency works. Okay? If you want to play, come play. If you don't, see you later. Because somebody will come and play. And, well, I might be a little bit old, but I'm sure I could still play goalie. All right, we have a special guest to come up from the Western Pennsylvania Police Beneficial Foundation. We have Rich Griffith, and he's going to tell you a little bit about an event that's going to be happening here at the Level 20 Lounge on September 30th. Come on up.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us. I appreciate it.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the events that led up to this event, and then what this is all about and what's going to be going on here.
I'm the president of the Western PA Police Benevolent Foundation. We're an agency of, street officers that we try and do different fundraisers. We try and help the families of all the officers, whether it be on-duty deaths, off-duty deaths, or just, trouble in their life. And unfortunately, we've been really busy in the Pittsburgh area in the last couple of years. I mean, it's really been tough, and we're just glad you guys would have us on here to talk about a fundraiser we have coming up here at Level 20. We will be here on the 30th, 1 to 7. It is the bye week for the Steelers, so we definitely timed that around. So because we knew 1 to 7 on a Sunday in Southwestern PA, that wasn't happening. But we're going to have a fundraiser for a really good friend of mine that passed away in a tragic motorcycle crash earlier the month, and to help his wife and family, through the rough times.
Okay, why don't you tell us who the fallen officer is, and what led up to that, and what's going to be going on here for that event?
The officer was Sergeant Perry Vahaley. He was an Allegheny County police officer. I've known Perry probably 18 years. He was a really good friend. He was a SWAT officer for the county, motorcycle officer for Allegheny County. I brought his picture here to put some personality to who the man was. The biggest attribute about Terry, he was a very large man, and I always used to tease him. It just always struck me. I was talking to his wife, just that there was nothing that could ever scare Perry or take Perry out, and he passed away in a motorcycle crash, leaving behind wife and his children. And we're going to have on the 30th a fundraiser here, 1 to 7. Proceeds we're going to try and, through the charity, go to his family to help her and the kids. And
tell him how many kids he has too.
Well, he has 6 children, and the baby is 14 months, 15 months now, little JD, and it's just a tragic situation. I mean, his biggest attribute, I tell everybody that asks me about him, was his heart, because everything about that man was helping people, and you hear that about everybody. But this guy he did everything for every policeman that was around him, the families that knew him, the county he served. He was just a really, really good man. And so we're going to ask everybody that can come out on the 30th, 1 to 7. We'll have auctions, 50-50s. We're going to have some sports memorabilia there. We're going to try and auction off and try and raise some money to help his family.
All right, thank you. You said you might have a band playing that day?
Yes, we do have a band playing. He has it all lined up.
Okay, who is that?
Band out of Nashville, and bagpipers will be here also.
Oh yeah, we always have the bagpipers.
Do you have
all
your
our
website
event.
where people could also get a hold of you?
Yeah,
You
any
wanna
of
announce
our events and any membership we take, whether you're law enforcement or non-law enforcement, we want to try and get as many people involved in the causes. www.wppbf.org. It's for the Western PA Police Benevolent
And let's
Foundation.
just repeat that again, because people that are watching the show may not hear it right away.
Yeah, it's www.wppbf.org. But I really appreciate you guys giving us the time to come in and talk to you about it. And I know, Al, I've seen you at the other fundraisers for officers done.
And one more thing you might want to mention is, you told me before that 100% of what's collected goes to families.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
We don't.
A lot of things, you don't hear that nowadays.
We have no operation costs. Everything is all the board members, all the trustees. They're all donating their time, and every membership dollar goes to helping the families of guys that we work with. I mean, they serve every day out there.
Just like yourself, you put in a full-time job plus
Yeah,
overtime
I mean,
and
and
everything else, so we appreciate it.
20 years I've been watching it. You know what I mean? And guys, and a lot of people do all kinds of jobs, but these guys got to go out and serve their communities. They serve this county, and when something like that happens and their families are on their knees, just to ask people to help them. That's basically what we do. So
Very noble cause.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Rich, well, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me on, and
We will continue to talk about this again next week. And for everybody out there that can make it, please come on down on the 30th. Maybe at some of that sports memorabilia, I'll donate a signed autograph for myself, and you can come down and pick up.
There you go.
But come on down, see us then, and it's for a great cause. And we hope to see as many people as possible.
Thank you, gentlemen. I
Thank you
appreciate
very
it.
much.
Take care.
Take care.
Send our regards to his family.
Yeah, I'll stick around. You guys want to.
All right. Well, again, if you can make it down on September 30th, sounds like a great cause, and we hope to see as many people as we can see there. This past weekend, well, the Steelers played, so I guess we have to talk about that. Jim, we saw the Jets come in. Steelers beat them 27-10, but somewhere like in early part of the game, Tim Tebow entered the game, ran a 22-yard run, and then handed off for yet another first down, and then he disappeared. Where did Tebow go?
Well, I tell you what, Tebow was fired up. He was ready to go. He looked well in the pregame warm-ups, but last week after Sanchez played a great game against Buffalo, I think that kind of derailed the installment of the Tebow time. But we got to talk about the greatest quarterback in Steeler history. I tell you what, if there's a better quarterback in the National Football League than Big Ben single-handedly won that football game. They could not get him on the ground. Bart, Scott, all those guys hit him. I don't know if you guys could see it on TV, but they had free run at Big Ben. He just shook them off and was able to make plays down the field. I tell you what, Big Ben Roethlisberger already, they ought to be making his bus in Canton, Ohio. That's a Hall of Famer we're looking at.
Well, you know, what was even more impressive about what the Steelers did yesterday is that their offense actually took control of the game in the fourth quarter. 10 minutes, they kept the ball, and then they stuck the stake through the heart of the Jets right there by scoring that touchdown late. There was no time left. They took the heart and soul out of the Jets on that last drive, and that's if the Steelers can continue to play like that, error-free football in the offense. I mean, you got to remember there was 2 former defensive players of the year that were on the sidelines in street clothes yesterday. The defense answered the bell yesterday.
Well, the whole team seemed to step up. Sometimes in adversity, everybody in town, including my man sitting next to me, thought the Steelers would lose. And they sort of shined. Even Max Starks, he only had like 1 or 2 bad plays where I saw they knocked him over. But other than that, he got in front of people. They were running around him a little bit. And they got in the way of most of these guys because Big Ben was getting blasted on most of the plays. And when it did come down to the fourth quarter, they did make it a little easier on us fans that are cheering for him because I need 10 more wins in this season here. And usually I get nervous at the end of the game because I'm a Steeler fan. 11-5, we only need 10 more wins. And the way some of these teams are losing, look at the Ravens lost. So there's hope. It's alive here.
Well, the Ravens are true to form to last year. They came out looking like the Super Bowl champs in week 1 against the Steelers and then lost to Seattle last year in the second game. And here they went ahead and did it again, losing to a team by rights they should have beaten.
I don't know. Philadelphia's a pretty good team. I don't think it's a surprise that they beat Baltimore. Roethlisberger did break a few tackles, but so did everybody else, except for Chris Rainey. The Jets' defense, they were hard, really rough stopping the run. For the first quarter, they looked great. After that, they seemed to fall apart. Again, Roethlisberger broke a few tackles. But he had wide open receivers all day long. The receivers beat the Jets' defensive backs like they were James Harrison's wife. They beat them all day long. They were always wide open. The Jets had no answer at all from Mike Wallace. I don't know what happened to them, but obviously they needed Tim Tebow in there to score anything after that. I don't know if I've ever seen a quarterback go 10 for 32 or 10 for 35 or whatever it was, but Mark Sanchez should not have been in there after the first quarter.
Well, Mark Sanchez, I think he showed you the prowess that he was showing in the preseason when they didn't score any points. I thought when I saw the way he performed last week, I was thinking, maybe you should pick him up for the fantasy team, and I'm like, I held off on doing that because I had a feeling he was going to lay an egg like he did yesterday. And I think, we saw the real Mark Sanchez yesterday. And I made this prediction in the preseason, but I do believe that Mark Sanchez is going to play his way out of the starting role in New York because I'm sure the sports writers in New York are just having a field day with him right now. And, the Giants will still keep on winning, and, the Jets they'll keep on rebuilding, I guess.
Well, 2 things happen. Timmons, who disappears from more games than David Copperfield, made a showing. He blasted Sanchez, and then he disappeared again, and Sanchez quit. Sanchez is the only Mexican I know that ain't got no heart.
Well, I'll tell you what, the Timmons will get recognized when the envelopes get handed out on Thursday or Friday, because I'm absolutely certain that they're gonna be a little $25,000 light in that paycheck this week. Because Timmons launched himself. He was a projectile. They tell you don't lead with the head, don't hit the head. Well, wrong on both cases.
Speaking of getting hit in the head, what do you think about Ryan Clark's hit on Green? And there's a guy with heart. It was a legal hit. He knocked him down, and he was out on his feet. He staggered, then he jogged into the halftime in the locker room. He come out. He was on the field. I think he has heart, or maybe he didn't know where he was at smoking.
Well, maybe he doesn't have common sense either, because most of these players have said that if it came down to it, would they lie about
Yes.
about whether or not they got a concussion because they want to play. They don't really think about what's going to happen to them when they're 50 or 60 years old. They want to play right now. Their adrenaline's going. They're warriors. So, even though he was probably concussed, and if they would have checked him out, which,
They said they
and
did.
a hit like that, they should. They should be forced to. But they should be. There should be like some type of a physician that has nothing to do with either one of the teams, so they can't
You
be
saw
lying,
the suits next to them. They had suited guys there.
Yeah, but they're getting paid by the Jets, so they're going to do what they tell them to do.
Just
Doctors. They're ethical, right?
Whoa, Chipper.
None that I know.
Right.
So,
But another amazing thing about Roethlisberger, excuse me, Mike,
Yeah, keep
was
the camera on,
he
Chipper.
completed passes to 10 different receivers.
Keep
in
it
that
over
game.
there. Wow.
I think he used everybody that they had on the offensive roster that was capable of catching a pass, caught a pass yesterday.
10 players caught a pass,
Yeah.
Chip. 10 different players.
Yeah.
That was it.
In the offense.
They had a couple on the
That's what he
bench,
said.
Yeah, but
Bradshaw never did
offensive
that.
linemen can't catch passes. So
unless they're eligible.
well, Bradshaw may have thrown to less receivers, but he won more Super Bowls. And he's made better movies.
Played a guitar better.
He didn't make it rain better than Ben.
If he made it rain or not, I don't know. But Terry Bradshaw was obviously the superior quarterback to Ben Roethlisberger.
Well, you know what? Ben Roethlisberger, is the one that's going to give the Steelers a chance to be respectable this year. If something happens to Ben, I just don't think Charlie Batch and Byron Leftwich are going to be the guys that are going to carry the Steelers to a lot of victories. I definitely think they need to keep Ben healthy, and you'll keep our playoff hopes alive.
Well, they are trying to keep him healthy with that bubble screen now. That's alive and well in Todd Haley's playbook. It come back with a vengeance. A lot of those bubble screens were popping up there, and they gained a few yards on them too.
Very few. Yeah. Jim, we did, on another show that we do, we had a guest, Colin Dunlap, a couple of times.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was very bright then. Yesterday on the radio, I'm listening to this idiot go on and on and on in the morning about how when the Steelers have this celebration commemorating the Immaculate Reception, that they should not allow Franco Harris to be there because Franco Harris is sympathetic towards Joe Paterno, and he might say something that embarrasses the Steeler. Let me ask you, how can you celebrate the Immaculate Reception when the man who made the catch is still alive and he's not there? How can you do this?
How can you celebrate it without Jack Tatum?
Yeah,
but
Fuqua.
Jack Tatum's dead. I'm sure Frenchie Fuqua will be there. I'm sure Terry Bradshaw will be there. I'm not so sure John Madden will be there. But how can you do this without having Franco Harris there? That's ridiculous.
I've never heard of anything more idiotic in my life. So his points of view on how he feels about Joe Paterno have absolutely nothing to do with the event or commemorating it. I don't see where you could draw a parallel there.
I think you're right. And who cares? The man is dead. Joe Paterno, they keep bringing him up with this stuff and Franco. Most of us are around here are pretty loyal to our teams and other people and everything else, just because he's loyal to a guy who is a mentor, father-like figure. And so what if he had a cutout in the box with him? I mean, Jack Ham was getting interviewed by Mark Madden the other day. I happened to listen to that show. And he goes, Jack, what do you think about your boy Franco? He goes, what do you mean? He goes, don't you know who he had up in the box with him? He goes, Mark, I don't know what you're talking about. So then right away, Mark Madden goes, Jack Ham has never lied. He's not a liar. He obviously doesn't know that Franco had a cutout of Joe Paterno. Then he asked him, what do you think of that? And he sort of was trying to digest that, and he goes, well, that's Franco. What are you going to do?
Yeah, he's entitled to his opinion and his point of view, just as all of us are, and I defend his right to have one. Whether you agree with it or not doesn't really matter, but it doesn't mean that you should try to censor him.
We don't know about
this
that.
This is the United States of America.
Exactly,
free
Chipper.
speech.
I second that.
Yeah, Franco's standing up for a man that can no longer stand up for himself. I think if Joe Paterno was alive and well, Franco wouldn't be doing all of this, and he's not going to bring that embarrassment or whatever to the city of Pittsburgh. He's just going to talk about the greatest play in National Football League history. And I tell you what, in this city, we've been blessed with two of the greatest plays in any team sport: Immaculate Reception in the home run in 1960.
Bill Mazeroski.
Bill Mazeroski.
Well,
So.
and not
Great
only that,
points.
imagine the Steelers do have this celebration without Franco Harris. Okay, how many sports talk stations, how many NFL preview shows are going to have Harris on to talk not only about Paterno but about the way the Steelers snubbed them?
Yeah,
and how
why-
ridiculous would the Steelers look to even try to have this celebration without the guy who caught the ball being there?
Yeah, right. You know, it's like it's nothing. You know what? I say nothing surprises me anymore, but nothing would. But I think it's just a way. I mean, basically, the whole 1972 Pittsburgh Steelers team should be part of the celebration. If you're on the roster, you know, you'd be there to celebrate with your teammates. You know, it's been 40 years, but why not?
So, speaking of celebrations,
Uh-oh.
prior to the season, if somebody told you, hey, September 17th, the Pirates would make it to 500, you might be happy. If you didn't know they were doing it in reverse and coming back from 16 games over 500. They're playing the Cubs right now. Can't see the score from here.
No, it's a rain
But, well, you know what? That might be the best thing for the Pirates because
Telling us we have a chance.
if
We
they
won't
don't
fall further
play,
back.
And the Pirates certainly have fallen on hard times as of late. And you know what? Now it's gut check time. There's 17 games left this season. You know, the season isn't over yet, and the Pirates have proven that they can win games, just having a little bit of difficulty doing it recently. You know, one of the things that I'd like to see that Clint Hurdle did was he took James McDonald out of the starting rotation. Probably could have done that two or 3 weeks ago. But, you know, McDonald, his pitching has been subpar ever since the All-Star break. His ERA is over 7. Get somebody in there that can, you know, maybe get you out of the first 3 innings without being behind by 4 or 5 runs. You know, the problems that the Pirates have, they're fairly obvious to everybody, and they've got, you know, some holes to fill over the rest of the season. But they do have the ability and they do have the talent to make a good run here through the end of the season. And who would have ever thought, September 17th, that the Pirates would be playing meaningful ball games at the 3rd week of September? I mean, you know, actually every game now from the end of the season, it actually does count. I mean, it counts towards something. You know, they haven't been on vacation since, the end of April.
Well, Chip, it's like a playoff now. Each game's like a playoff game. They haven't been in the playoffs, so that'll give them a little taste of what it's like. And they haven't showed me that heart that Smokin' Jim talks about. They have shown that they can be 16 games over 500 on August 8th, and then look at the date. We would be happy if that went the other way, but they're sliding back. I'm still with them. The bandwagon, I have 1 foot dragging on the floor, Chipper.
I've still got both feet firmly planted on the wagon, and I'm driving it all the way to the end of the season. Okay? I'm not going to give up on my Buccos. I'll be at the game Wednesday night cheering them on as they beat the Brewers, who just inched ahead of them in the wild card race.
I didn't bring it up, Chip.
You know, but yeah, you know, the Pirates. But you know, you look at what's going on and the people that we're combating against. I mean, the Dodgers are 3-7 in their last 10. The Cardinals were 2-8. Okay, the only team that's got a winning record of the people that are vying for the final wild card spot is Milwaukee, and they're 7-3 in their last 10. So, I mean, by no means are we out of this yet, and we do have the talent to win it, and we just, one game at a time. We just got to put up a win today, and we'll worry about tomorrow.
well, I have a bandwagon for sale. It hasn't been used only once and not for very long. You're right. They're only 3 games out of the last wild card spot, but they would have to jump over 3 teams to get there, and that's just not going to happen. None of the games they're playing are meaningful unless you're still holding out for them to make 500. You know, if that's what you think is a good season, well, then, you know, if your goal is to win the World Series and you fall short, well, then I guess that's okay. If your goal is to reach 500 and you fall short, you're a loser. You got a manager that has no idea what to do with his pitchers. Yeah, he finally took McDonald out of the rotation, if you believe that. Maybe McDonald took himself out of the rotation, who knows. But Hurdle stood there and watched McDonald in one game give up 6 runs in 1 inning, and then in the next game or the following time he came up, he gave up 8 runs in 3 innings. How do you know when it's time to take a pitcher out? Well, when every pitch he throws is going over the fence behind you, it might be time. And then Wandy Rodriguez comes up. He's pitching lights out. He gives up a hit. They yanked him out of the game, and the Pirates went on to lose that one too. Yesterday, when the score was 9-5, I turned to my uncle and I said, depending on who they bring in to pitch, this could be a winning streak. It would be the second game in a row that they won. And I said, but you know what? I'm betting it's not. And the Pirates went on and gave up, 4, 5, 6 more runs that inning. It's a rough game, I guess, but you have to be able to look at these players and say, this guy's got it and this guy doesn't. Okay, when a guy gives up 8 runs in 3 innings, he shouldn't have been in there that long. Sorry, but Hurdle's just not doing the job. I don't know how serious Nutting is about actually wanting to win, but you have to look at this guy and realize this is not going to get us there. They got off to a nice start again. Some of the players got off to a great start. A lot of players have had a very good year this year. Alvarez is having a good year, good second half at least. Garrett Jones is having a good year. Walker's had a decent year. And, Andrew McCutchen started out great, and then he played his way out of the MVP race. But these guys are – they're not great baseball players. A lot of them probably couldn't start on any other team. But they are what you have. You need to learn to deal with it. And these pitchers that you have, you need to be able to realize sometimes you got to take them out before the 5th inning.
Well, and I respect your opinion. And I know, Mike, you're no fan of Clint Hurdle's, but I beg to differ on the quality of the manager of the team and the direction the team's heading in. You look back at 2010, the Pirates won 57 games. They were the worst team in baseball by far. And here we are 2 short years later, and we're going to get a team that's contended for most of the year. And, yeah, they've got holes to fill. They've got, you can point the finger all you want at Clint Hurdle. He's the manager of the team and has to shoulder the blame. But you know what? Some of those players on that team got to look in the mirror, too, because they're the ones out there on the field playing every one of these games. And they're the ones that are either doing it or they're not doing it. And, yeah, he's made some bad decisions maybe with some of the pitching staff. But, there's a lot of mistakes happening by players that know better than to make these kind of mistakes. Like at least once a game, it seems like they're running themselves out of an inning. Somebody's getting picked off.
More than once.
Yeah, somebody's getting picked off second. Somebody's falling asleep around at first base and getting tagged out. And these are all killing rallies. There's a lot of reasons why the Pirates are in the position that they're in right now. But you know what? I firmly believe this. Without Clint Hurdle, we wouldn't even be talking about the Pittsburgh Pirates right now. You look at what he's done and how far this team has come from 2010 to now, and they're a far cry better. And I'll tell you what, they've put an entertaining product on the field for this season. And as a baseball fan and a Pittsburgh Pirate fan, more importantly, I've enjoyed this summer, and I'm going to continue to enjoy it for another couple of weeks. It's revived interest in baseball in Pittsburgh, and I think there's nowhere else for us to go from here but up.
No, well, I think it's great that they were a little bit competitive, and they are a fun team to watch play. They're a disappointing team to watch play, but they're fun. And as far as making mistakes and whatever, the big mistake was bringing Hurdle in to begin with. Okay. Well, not only Hurdle, but if you look back at the last stretch of managers they've had, they've never brought in a manager that's had a winning record for as long as I can remember. They have from McClendon to Tracy to Russell to this guy, all losing records. Okay, if they'd have brought in Phil Garner or Tony Pena, who both had Pittsburgh connections and have winning records, they'd have brought in a guy that had a winning record. Okay, the Pittsburgh Pirates have a culture of losing. No matter, everybody that you look at has lost somewhere else before they come here. And you know what? It's not all throughout the organization. Their minor league teams generally do pretty good. They're pretty good players that are coming up here. They're just not, they're falling into a losing culture. And as far as whether I think Hurdle's a good manager or not, or you think Hurdle's a good manager or not, and while some players do make some bad mistakes, it's not a mistake to hang on the rail and chew a bunch of bubble gum and watch a guy go out there. Let me ask you something. If you were a manager, in what circumstance would you stand there and watch a pitcher give up 8 runs?
You know,
When do you think it might be time to yank him?
you know, I mean,
After 3, 4, 5? Yeah.
Michael, we will just have to agree to disagree. We have different points of view about this, and I respect your opinion. You know, but
So, wait, you're
I may
saying
not agree with it.
You're saying you would leave a pitcher in to give up 8 runs?
You know what? It depends on what the situation is.
Oh, well, that's why I asked you.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
situation would cause you to do that? I want to know.
Well, you know,
'Cause I could
there's
be
so
wrong.
many different factors.
Hey, Chip,
I
I'll
haven't
make it simple
in
for
years.
you. He was playing the game and managing the game by his gut instinct. Well, his gut instinct should have stopped at about 3 runs or 4 runs, or when they have 8 straight base hits, you might have to pull a pitcher. And with James McDonald, I was on the record as saying he had a tired arm. The second half of the season, his arm didn't show up. Maybe 1 game. That's part of the problem. Now, a manager, I blame the manager and his hitting coach, his pitching coach. Do I have base running coaches? Is there a first base coach and a third base coach? How can you make errors in judgment when a guy hits an infield ball and
You know, and
run yourself out of a play and try to? It's crazy.
To be honest with you, you know, Clint Hurdles has made his mistakes, but you know, you look at the problems that we have with the manager of our team, and then you go to and look at a team like Boston Red Sox. Okay, here's a team that had one of the best managers in baseball, Terry Francona. Took them to 2 world championships. They had a pretty amazing skid last September and missed the playoffs. Had a 9-game lead and blew that. Now they bring in a guy named Bobby Valentine who comes with all these credentials. I'm a winner. I can do this. I can do that. He was such a popular manager in the United States that he had a coach for 8 years in Japan because nobody wanted to hire him. So the Red Sox hired him. Wait. The Red Sox hired him, and look what he has done. Here's a franchise that had one of the highest payrolls in baseball, a team loaded, stacked to compete against the Yankees, and they failed miserably this year. And now he's going. He makes a comment in a paper on Friday about how this is the weakest team that they have ever had going into September, and then he has to backtrack and clarify what he said 3 days later. It's all about Bobby Valentine, and it's not anything about what the team is doing. So, I mean, I think we could have a whole lot bigger problems with our team than who we've got running it right now. And, you know, Mike commented about the Pirates farm system has been doing pretty well lately. Well, 3 or 4 years ago, when Nutting and Neil Huntington came into this thing, the Pirates didn't have a farm system. They was devoid of any player that was capable of playing in the major leagues, and they've kind of rebuilt that, and you know, that's what you got to do with these things. You got to build them from the ground up.
Well, they've got 20 years on the ground.
Yeah. Okay.
They need to step up maybe, but I don't know. I can't imagine they're going to finish.
But on
over
another
500
positive
this year.
note with the Pittsburgh sports scene this weekend, how about the Pitt Panthers? Last week I took Pitt and the head coach and everybody else to task for how horribly they played their first 2 games. And I think the shocker of the weekend was that the Pitt Panthers beat the Virginia Tech on Saturday, which happened to be ranked number 13 at the time, and have now fallen so far off the polls that nobody can find them.
Look who beat them.
And the same quarterback that I said shouldn't even be playing won a Big East Player of the Week. Tino Sinceri had a great game on Saturday. How does that Pitt team show up on Saturday and do that to Virginia Tech, and the same team lay such eggs against Youngstown State and Cincinnati?
Oh, it's very easy to answer. Listen, I took a lot of heat when he was in high school. I said they ought to change the name of the stadium to Shell Dorset Stadium in Hopewell. Russell Shell plays the first game of the season. Pitt beats Youngstown State. Listen, Russell Shell is the greatest running back to go to the University of Pittsburgh since Tony Dorsett. 160 yards, all of it in the second half. This guy is a beast. I tell you what, he reminds me of a young Trent Richardson. Don't forget, Trent Richardson went 4th overall. I don't think Russell Shell will spend more than 3 years at Pitt, but if they run the ball behind Russell Shell, Pitt will be very, very successful.
That's correct. We talked about Russell Shell earlier. We had him on a previous show. Russell Shell's a great running back, and yeah, he probably. There has been nobody since Tony Dorsett that's as talented, including Ray Graham, who also had a decent game on Saturday. But that twin running attack destroyed Virginia Tech, and the defense actually showed up. On the other hand, your question, how could they play those two that they did and then come back and beat Virginia Tech, will be a lot more pertinent after Gardner Webb beats them next week.
That's going to pack Heinz Field. I just got to tell you, tickets will be at a premium.
But as far as Cincinnati, a lot of people locally, they carry on about him on these other talk shows about Cincinnati's not this, Cincinnati's not that. Cincinnati's a kid who's playing football in college. He's not making a $100 million contract. He probably had a dream of going to the NFL, but that's probably not going to happen. He might get a walk-on someplace, but he's probably not going to stick. But he's playing playing football for his college, for his school. How can you carry on about this guy shouldn't be this guy shouldn't be that? If he wasn't the best quarterback that Pitt had, he wouldn't be playing.
You know, that was the question I had, prior to this past week's game was, is he really, do we have nobody else that's capable of playing quarterback? Because, they start Russell Shell. Well, why didn't they start him in the first game? It's like they don't always put the best person that they have at a position plays, because sometimes there's politics things that go on behind the scenes that affect these things. But
Russell Shell didn't start because he's a sophomore or a freshman. He's a freshman, and they have an established running back. Ray Graham is a good running back. Just Russell Shell has a large amount of talent.
Maybe you can answer this for me. Tony Dorsett, when he came into Pitt, did he not start as a freshman? I mean, from the first day he came, wasn't he just? I mean, he was so good, so much better than everybody else that they couldn't keep him off.
Johnny Majors made Tony Dorsett the starting running back in June at the Big 33 game. That's how good Tony Dorsett was. From day one of his training camp, Johnny Majors, who's a great coach, a Hall of Fame coach, made Tony Dorsett the #1 running back and made all the other running backs go play defensive back or wide receiver if they want to see the field. Russell Shell not only ran for 9,000 yards, Tony Dorsett never ran for 3,000 in his career in high school. He ran for 38 consecutive 100-yard games, breaking Billy Sims' high school record. National record, and all of a sudden this guy comes to Pitt and he's 15. They almost tried to redshirt him.
Yes,
but fortunately, cream rises to the top. That's what Russell Shell did. He rose to the top, and I tell you what, Pitt ought to ride that horse the rest of the season.
Should ride that horse. Tony Dorsett, not taking anything away from him, but he also had the benefit of playing for a pretty good football team. They had a decent quarterback. They had some great offensive linemen. And they had a kicker that I thought was the best kicker I've ever seen, and he kind of disappeared. Was it Carson Long? I don't know, he never went to the NFL or whatever, but he made some great, very long field goal.
Well, don't forget now, when Tony Dorsett went to the University of Pittsburgh, and he didn't want to go to the University of Pittsburgh. University of Pittsburgh was getting ready to go from Division I down to Division I AA. That's how terrible they were. They couldn't beat Army, they couldn't beat Navy, they couldn't beat the Air Force, and if the Marines would have put a team together, they would have beat Pitt. But Tony Dorsett only went to Pitt because Joe Berterno says you can only play cornerback for Penn State. We got John Cappelletti. So he goes to University of Pittsburgh. They were a bum team. He took them in 4 years to the national championship, and that's the thing. Right now, Pitt has a lot of talent. There's a lot of talent in Western Pennsylvania, and the more that Russell Shell does, there's going to be other players from Western Pennsylvania that's going to sign with Pitt instead of Arizona and Arizona State.
All right.
Maybe some of the guys from Penn State that can transfer without penalty until 2013 will come to Western Pennsylvania.
They don't have to. They won last week, too.
They're back.
I've never seen
They're
a
back.
Nittany Lion storm the field because they beat Navy. How far has the program fallen? They're tearing down the goalposts because they beat Navy. That's a doggone shame. I tell you what. Penn State holds 110,000 people. They are a disgrace up there in Penn State, tearing down the goalposts. because you beat Navy. That's a doggone shame. But the players can sing now. They sing with the band after the game.
Yeah, but it's not those players' fault. It's the president of the NCAA and the free report. How do you take all those wins away from them? How do you change the whole complexion of that game and that team? Think about it. Look what they did. They tore a program apart because of a guy that's in charge of there and a $6 million free report.
That's right, Jim, and that's the reason that they tore down the goalpost, because according to the NCAA, they haven't won a game in 11 years. So they won one. They're happy about it. And as far as singing with the band, if you'd have read that book I told you to read, The Civil War, about Navy and Army, you'd know why they were singing with the band.
And I read the book, and I read that book. It's a great book. I'll pass it to Smoking Jim. No, on second thought, I won't pass it to him. I'll read the first 10 pages to him, and then I'll read the ending to him so he understands why they're sitting with the band.
If it ain't Jack and Jill, don't give it to me.
Well, they didn't go up the hill. That was chicken on the hill with Will. You could get a bucket of chicken. If you're living back to those days, forget about it. It's gone. All right, I'll read to the end of the book and you'll know.
Yeah, everybody dies.
Not everybody. The kicker that went wide right, he's still alive. Okay?
So we've trashed the NHL. We've trashed the.
We didn't go all the way.
Oh yeah. On another note, we're getting back to football. Roger Goodell had a meeting today with Jonathan Vilma and some of the other culprits in the bonus in the pay for pain
bonus gate. You're thinking bonus gate.
Yeah. And so Jonathan Vilma got handed an affidavit. It was a sworn affidavit from his defensive coordinator Greg Williams, and how he had this signed affidavit that says that yes, you got paid. So all they ever wanted to do was to be given it proof that they had evidence that this actually happened, because they've been denying it. So now they're handed the proof. So it'll be interesting to see is what kind of punishment gets handed down from this now, because what you've denied, they now have proven that you're giving you the evidence. Okay. So now everybody's suspensions have been waived for how long? When's the hammer going to drop on this?
Well, they're 0-2, so some hammer's been dropping on them already. I don't understand how the players are playing, but the coaches aren't coaching. I mean, it either happened or it didn't. The NFL should have not lifted their suspension, no matter who told them to. They should, they're their own entity. They should have continued with the suspensions that they handed out.
Looked like that was money well spent on Drew Brees.
I think here's the problem. The players were the ones that said, I didn't do it. And the coaches said, you know what, we did. We're throwing ourselves on the mercy of the court. We did it. So, the coaches aren't denying the fact that it happened. The players are, because they got paid in cash and they spent it, so it doesn't exist. So they don't have any proof.
Chip, you could be their lawyer.
No thanks.
I got to. Speaking of lawyers, I got to give you guys another good story. Here's a great story. Back in the mid-'70s, Lou Holtz, who I think is one of the greatest coaches of all time, the only coach that have taken 6 different schools to bowl games. And don't forget, back in the day, you had to almost be undefeated on one loss to go to a bowl. There wasn't that many bowls. In 1975, he's coaching Arkansas. Arkansas, he suspends his best 6 players, top 4 running backs for breaking team rules. They took him to court to get an injunction. That's a big word for me. Get an injunction so they can play in the bowl game. Lou Holtz, because he was the coach of Arkansas, was represented by the state district attorney of Arkansas. Guess who that guy was? That was Bill Clinton, America's first black president. And Bill won there too.
Thanks, Smoking Jim. Little history and fact from Smoking Jim's Almanac. Stay tuned.
Let me ask you something, Jim. Those 6 teams, how many of them came under NCAA investigation after Lou Holtz left?
Every one of them.
5? Now, I don't think they did Notre Dame, because you're not allowed to do that.
Right.
But
they were all
they got the other 5.
Yeah. No, because you got the Pope putting the Pope oversees what goes on at Notre Dame. Touchdown, Jesus sees all.
Well, that's why everybody knows that I'm from Gateway, and I go hard for my school, Gateway. And I tell you what, I got Gateway to get every Catholic school off their roster. They had no luck with Central Catholic. The girls had no luck against Oakland Catholic. So we had a big meeting at the school board, and they says, listen, God does not care about who wins or loses. And I says, I understand that, but his mother does.
First off, let's clear that up just a little bit, Jim. You're not from Gateway. You played there. Where are you from?
I was recruited in.
The only high school that's in the Western Pennsylvania.
Just like I didn't go to class in Gateway, and I got a degree in college. After 4 years, I got a general studies degree. I still don't know where the classes are.
Gateway starts recruiting when they're in the 6th grade. Gateway hangs out at the grade schools.
Wait, did the statute of limitations run out on you? I don't know if you can say that on air. Wait a second.
They get envelopes with money when they're in 6th grade.
Hey, there's no statute of limitation on your reputation, brother. Everybody knows, man. If you can make $1 million basket weaving, I'm the baddest man around.
Well, what's Gateway going to do this week then, since you brought them up?
Well, they're averaging 60 points a game, but they're not playing their starters in the second half, so I'm protesting Gateway. I won 100. I won 100. Last year they set a state record against Norwin, which stands for no win. They scored 85 points against Norwin last year. But I'm afraid of the South. I am afraid of the South. Upper St. Clair is loaded this year. North Allegheny is loaded this year. So Gateway, again, is going to be in a dogfight at Heinz Field.
Central Catholic.
No Catholic schools.
Oh, man.
No Catholic schools, he said.
Man. They'll be in
Well, they're allowed to recruit.
What part of the South is North Allegheny in?
It's south of Butler.
Northern part of the South.
It's south of Butler.
Northern part of the South.
Down south from North Hill.
It's south of Butler.
The northern part
I got
of
them
the
a
South.
technicality. They're well south of
Just
Butler.
slightly above the equator.
Butler's further up there.
But hey, USA Today, if everybody gets a USA Today from 2 weeks ago, USA Today had all the schools in the last 10 years. All the schools, I tell you what, you guys are going to be so proud after this. Gateway was ranked number 6 in the country for getting players scholarships to Division I. Out of all the schools in the country, they are ranked number 6 according to USA Today for getting Division I scholarships to their players. Now all they got to do is do well in college. I think Gateway players ride the bench in college, man.
How many graduate, though?
They all graduate.
College?
They all graduate. They're all teachers.
Well,
Big Ben's wife takes their test for them too, brother. Online degree. University of Phoenix, Gateway leads the league, brother.
Jim, you should lead the revival meeting.
If you get a D, you can play for me.
So Gateway, I guess this is their last year. What are they going to do without Terry Smith? Who do you think could possibly replace him? Besides Lou Holtz.
Clint Hurdle.
Bill Clinton?
Clint Hurdle can't recruit like that.
I tell you what, we got Walt Harris's resume. He has applied for a job at Gateway.
Now, didn't Walt Harris really fall on his face when he went over and took over the Stanford program?
Yes.
Did he go to Stanford from Pitt, and he did not do so well? I think he
That's
That's
right.
true.
2 years. 2 years he got fired.
Speaking of Stanford,
Look what they
He tried
did.
to shake Jim Harbaugh's hand when Harbaugh got the job and just threw him out the way.
Oh, he has a
Speaking
history
of
of that.
Stanford, look what they did to USC. I knocked them off the national title hunt last
Yeah.
week.
surprised
That was
USC a lot.
you know. And now, which game do you think was a bigger upset?
Why is he bringing
the
that
Arizona
USC game?
Cardinals beating the Patriots, or the Stanford Cardinal beating USC this past weekend?
definitely
Which one
Stanford.
Hey,
For
Chip,
beating
quit
USC.
mentioning that USC. I lost a house on that. That was his bet the house.
Yeah, I lost
Anybody have a
I lost
house?
some money on it. I lost some
At least
money
I got
on
it back
that
on the Steelers because he said they were going to lose. My son told me, he goes, whatever Smoking Jim said this week, bet the opposite. Guess what, Smoking Jim? You're invited over to the second house.
I tell you what, I'm 97% on my picks.
Not
but they all come in 3 in a row. I'm losing.
Not on Saturday and Sunday.
I was 97.
Not on Saturday and
this
Sunday.
week, man.
You might have Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, but it wasn't Saturday and Sunday. You got Sunday night, but that wasn't enough. But thanks.
All right. Well, Jim, since you brought up the USA Today, I got to tell you a story about what's been going on at my house. As you know, I use the Post-Gazette to line my bird cage. And starting about 3 weeks ago, every time I come down in the morning, there's a little piece of the newspaper that's been torn out and thrown out of the cage. And I pick up Ron Cork's article and I throw it away every day because it's not good enough for my bird to do what it's doing on. No offense, Ron, but birds breed too, I guess. Anyway, thanks for viewing us tonight on Level 20 Sportsline. Glad everybody could be here. Thanks to the crowd. And don't forget the event here on September 30th. And we'll see you here next week on Level 20 Sportsline.